everyone! I'm excited because this video's all about me!
Indeed it is. Most of you know about Gamio, this channel's mascot and a protagonist of the Toon Rebellion, whenever that comes out. People who have been around long enough will know that I had an old version of this video, but it was awful and I didn't mention a lot of things. Anyways, I'm probably going to start a new series of these videos explaining who certain TTR characters are that show up in my videos. I definitely won't cover them all, but I'll cover a few. I'll have to be careful not to spoil the story though. Anyways, I should probably begin explaining who Gamio is now. Gamio's origins definitely take place over the longest time span than any other character. When I was shorter than I already am, I watched a lot of YouTubers play video games. Now, I know a lot of you guys are wondering why I'm talking about video games when this is about a cartoon, and I also know a lot of you guys already know exactly where I'm going with this. So basically, little me saw these people and said,
Man, it would be cool if I did that!
I wouldn't say that it was a dream of mine. If you asked young me if that's what I wanted to be when I grew up, I probably would have said no. But it was something I liked to pretend to be. Whenever I would play a game on my Wii U, which was almost always my favorite game at the time, Paper Mario Color Splash. It's a peak game, I don't care what anyone says. I would narrate and converse with myself out loud, and pretend I was talking to an audience. I was a lonely, lonely child, and in order to come up with a pseudonym I would refer to myself as whenever I would do this, I mixed my nickname, Niño, with the word game to make Gamio, or Gamio, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Both are correct. The funny thing is, now that I've actually put in the work of writing and animating, I think of gamers now and go,
You mean to tell me this kid screams at horror games 20 minutes a day for a living and he's buying a yacht?
That's right!
I just paid for that!
Anyways, if I hear one more person ask me to make a gaming channel, I'm going to put you in a grinder. Fast forward years and years later, I discovered something on YouTube. Something that would change how I thought about animation. Something that, if it didn't exist, this whole studio probably wouldn't have been formed. That's right, it's BFDI. So 9-year-old me found out about BFDI through seeing a Dumb Ways to Die parody with its characters. Wow, this stuff sounds a lot more cringe coming out of my mouth. Anyways, it inspired me to try and figure out how to animate myself, which I kinda did. I started making crappy animations in Flip-a-Clip, which I don't use anymore, and when I say crappy, I mean crappy. I've heard people say, "Oh, my animation was so bad," and then they show a competent animation. This is a frame from my first upload, which wasn't even my first animation. Anyways, when my parents made my YouTube channel for me, I accidentally uploaded one of my animations to my mother's channel. They told me to name it, and I named it Gamio after what I predetermined my channel name would be if I ever had one. Except, for some reason, it forced them to put a last name too, so I put Production. The S was added later. Yes, this studio was named Gamio Productions before Gamio was even a thing. And yes, I changed the studio name to Radiostar because of a character that came years after it was created. While my channel existed, I stopped uploading on it for years, but I wanted to make storytime animations for a long time. During this time, I brainstormed ideas for a persona, which I didn't even know was what they were called until Leslie told me a few months ago. I knew I wanted it to be a rubber hose cartoon like Mickey Mouse and Oswald the Lucky Rabbit because I love old stuff. And I unironically enjoyed Mickey Mouse shorts. The good ones, not the ones made for toddlers. I also wanted to give him the ability to stretch his limbs and body because I always liked that superpower for some reason, and it fits with the whole rubber hose thing. Then, after one video of using him, I decided to start what will become Interception, and Gamio became a character separate from me. And the video kicking it off was explaining how I came up with Gamio, so it didn't even make sense. That mistake is why the misconception that Gamio and I are the same person is still around and haunts me to this day. I had what I wanted him to look like in my mind for years. I came up with the spikes because of a recurring side character from the Amazing. Then, I drew him for the first time in Flip-A-Clip. I kept polishing his design, making his eyes larger with each wave of polish, and at one point, I decided I wanted him to be shorter too. And that's where we are today. Normally, my designs have more symbolism than his, but I made him relatively simple compared to everyone else. The spikes on his head symbolize how you can't get too close to him without being hurt. And the fact that he's black and white, as well as resembling old cartoons, symbolizes that he refuses to conform with the world's new and changing ideas. Now, we can't talk about Gamio without also talking about Valerie a little. When I first came up with their dynamic, it was originally much, much darker and far less wholesome. Gamio didn't really have much of a personality in Interception because my singular attempt at giving him one in a video was so cringe that I just didn't try again. But I always knew I wanted him to have mainly negative traits because I noticed how sterilized characters like Mickey Mouse were and wanted to have a mascot who was not exactly a good person. With this idea, I split my own personality into two. All the good things about myself were given to Valerie, and all the bad things were given to Gamio. And I used that as the base for their personalities. Because of this, they're the characters most connected to myself in the story. There was, however, an issue with this that I'll discuss later. So Gamio during this stage is best described as a psychopath who relishes in the suffering of others, and will do anything if it serves him. Oh, and he's also literally going insane. And his friendship with Valerie that everybody loves so much? Well, that was characterized mainly through manipulation. Gamio was planned to be constantly manipulating Valerie into believing that he cared about her, when he didn't, and convincing her to do whatever he wanted her to at that point in time. But the thing is, Gamio was never meant to stay evil. He was supposed to get better. During the original concepts of TTR, Gamio's arc would be slowly becoming a better person as pretending to care about Valerie, who shows him nothing but kindness, eventually causes him to actually start to care about something. And it was planned to conclude with Gamio sacrificing himself to save everyone. Now, the only reason I'm spoiling this is because this concept is like 2 years old now, and isn't exactly what I'm going to end up going with. There are aspects of this that are still around, but the arc is very different. One of the things I wanted to... I've done this line so many times, I keep messing it up. One of the things about TTR I wanted to instill was that nobody had plot armor, which was another reason I originally planned to kill off my mascot. Anyways, the reason that this whole arc was a problem was because Gamio had become so cartoonishly evil that it just wasn't believable. Now, I didn't quite know why it spiraled so much, but I'm pretty sure it's because Gamio became my way of punishing myself for my own mistakes, or things I didn't like about myself. I knew that if I wanted Gamio to be more likable, and to continue writing the Toon Rebellion in a healthy way, I'd need to overhaul his character. I toned down Gamio's malice a lot, and now he's more of a fun prankster who gets on people's nerves. That being said, he still does his fair share of messed up crap. Just not as bad. Why doesn't my microphone pick up my S sounds correctly? I'm gonna kill— I believe that at this point in Gamio's upbringing, the Amazing Digital Circus pilot had just come out, and was the hot new thing. We were either on episode 1 or 2, I don't recall. Anyways, I took some inspiration from Jax and Ragatha's relationship to define Gamio and Valerie's new one. Now, at this time, it wasn't apparent that Jax was the person we know he is today, so I was still under the impression that Jax was just a lovable jerk. A similar thing goes for Ragatha. In a very specific arc, Gamio symbolizes resistance to destructive change. I wish I could go more in depth, but I'd be spoiling. Beyond that, Gamio becomes a walking, talking example of the main themes of the story, which are anyone can change, And packaged into that is that hatred is never justified. Now, the theme refers to both changing for the better and for the worse. Which does Gamio do? I won't spoil that much.
Viewers, we encourage you to use the like and dislike features. Your input will determine what videos we make in the future. And for now, that's all, folks.
Hello everyone! You may have noticed we tried a lot of new things this video. Also, I'm glad to announce that even though it's existed for a while now, I've just been procrastinating launching it, we have a website. The QR code that just replaced the Discord server's QR code will take you there. It's also linked in the description, and I probably linked it on my channel by now. I don't know. Anyways, bye!